this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Chris Aniskovich, who is the chairman of the town council for the town of Clinton. Mr. Chairman, welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
Hi, buddy.
How are you?
How are you? Good. How are you?
Doing good.
What's new? It's been a while.
It has been a while. I mean, but every time we seem to talk about the same stuff. So
I know.
We'll start with something different this time. We won't talk about COVID. We'll talk about something different
All right.
first.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I guess everything that the big thing going around now, obviously, is the ARPA funding that all the towns in the state have gotten from the federal government.
Okay.
So, like everybody else, we've been going through some workshops. We've been going through some public hearings.
Mm-hmm.
So, the original council, we have 3 new members on the town council. So prior to the new members, the previous town council had met a couple times and done some workshops on the ARPA funding.
Okay.
Met with Carl Kilduff, our town manager.
Absolutely.
Who's done a tremendous job going through all this and doing all the background work so that he's working with everybody in town, department heads, the nonprofits, the groups in town that are interested in getting some funding through the ARPA. And we've had workshops on that. We finalized the number.
Wow.
So up front, we are at right now 2.3 of our 3.8.
Okay.
Carl wanted to set it up so that we weren't using all of our funds up front, so that if there were other things that came about as we move forward, we had that available to us.
Gotcha.
Which is a good idea. So
yeah.
2.3 allocated now. We had the public hearing a couple weeks ago. Carl did a great presentation for everybody that was there, which seemed to alleviate a lot of the questions. So people, it's very straightforward as far as what it can and can't be used for. So the thing and the ability that the town manager had is the ability to let everybody know what these funds can and cannot be used for.
What can and they can't be used for?
And we don't have enough time.
No, oh no.
So,
that's another show.
That is a show. So there's a lot of different sections of it. Obviously, COVID related, economic impact, rent, mortgage, people losing their jobs, mental health issues. So there's a lot of different categories that it has to fit in order to be used.
Okay.
So what happens is the people that came forward, he brought us the budget, or he gave us the breakout of the funding and told us that these would be items that would be eligible. Council members did have some other things that they wanted to bring forward, and some of that stuff really wasn't eligible, that Carl felt wasn't eligible.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is that if we use the money for something that we feel is eligible, but then the Treasury Department says it's not eligible, we pay back. So the towns are on the hook to pay that money back.
Oh boy. Okay.
So we need to make sure that what this money is being allocated for is eligible for. Yes.
Gotcha.
And that's a whole different, it's not an easy process. So obviously once we go through this process of the public hearing, the next thing is the town meeting.
Right.
So in the town of Clinton, we would have to have a town meeting for the citizens and the people of Clinton to approve the allocation of these funds.
Okay.
When that happens, then obviously we can move forward. One of the other things per our charter is that any monies over $300,000 would have to go through a referendum. So if there's anything through the ARPA funding where we're going to give one particular group or organization over $300,000, that would also have to go to a referendum.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So you kind of have to work through all that to make sure that we're not there.
Yeah.
And there's certain ways that you can do it by breaking out a certain number and putting it into separate categories.
Okay.
Which would alleviate having to go to the referendum.
There you go.
Again, that would just delay the process.
Yeah.
But the monies, once you get them, once you spend them, once they're given out, and once they're allocated, then the real work starts, because you have to make sure that they're using the money specifically for what they were allocated to use the funds for.
Absolutely.
And again, same issue. Town's on the hook. If the money isn't used for that stuff, then they're going to be coming and knocking on our door. We don't want anybody knocking on our door.
Yeah, no, saying
pay back.
Yeah, exactly.
So not good. No. So that's the first round of funding that we'll do. We have to spend all the money by 2026. If you don't spend all the money by then you have to pay the money back. So we'll allocate the money, and so there's a difference between allocation and then actually using the funds. So we'll make sure that we allocate it by, I think it's 2024, and then the funds have to be used by 2026.
What's the difference?
The allocation is just saying this group and this organization is going to get the money available to them to use. The use of the funds means you have to actually physically use that money. Go out and spend it.
Right.
But for the right things.
Right.
So that's it's hard. It is definitely a process. When we had our public hearing, the night before our public hearing, Carl, the town manager, had just gotten the last War and Peace Bible of the final guidelines for the use of the funds.
Right.
Because we had a preliminary use, that's what we had talked about and met on. So now the final determination has come forth, and he has to go through all of that to make sure what we allocated before is still usable through the final. So
Wow.
it's a good thing we have a town manager.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. It's a lot of work.
No kidding.
So, you just have to make sure you're playing by the rules, you're doing the right thing, and, making sure you're staying on top of it once that money gets sent out to these organizations that they're using it for the proper thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how is said town manager? Is he good? Is he good?
I think he's doing a great job.
Absolutely.
I think we've once we moved over to the town manager form of government, I think there was a learning curve that still kind of seems to be happening. Not sure why, but people are still getting used to it. He's not the face of the town. He's
No.
the individual that is making sure the town moves in the direction that the town council is, wants to make sure we move. So everything on that end is working well. His contract will come up at the end of this year.
Okay.
So we will, obviously, I will be in discussion with him probably the middle of the year to confirm whether or not he would like to stay on, and then we'll take it from there. So hoping that he'll stay on and we can get him to another contract.
So the face of the town, obviously that would be you.
Lucky me.
Oh boy.
Right?
Oh boy.
Well, it depends who you ask that. So, I mean, it's, per the charter, it's the ceremonial head of the town.
Yep.
So that's it. So basically, the functions that exist in town, the parades, stuff like that, then obviously I'm, available to do that.
Absolutely.
And I run the meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do.
Absolutely.
So everything seems to be working well. So
Council's good?
council's good. We had obviously I just got reelected to another 2-year term as town council chairman. Every 2 years that gets put up for reelection. So that happened again this term.
All right.
So, but everything's good. We got 3 new members, all looking forward to working hard. Looks like we're definitely a group that can continue to work together to make sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of the town.
Absolutely.
So,
And things are, by the way, Big Y, beautiful.
isn't it?
It is.
It is.
Yeah, I was up there.
Yes.
I was
Indian
up-
River is coming along great. So Big
Yeah.
Y is up and running.
Yep.
Starbucks will be up and running. We're hoping probably the first quarter, hopefully of 2022 for that as well.
Okay.
Madison Furniture Barn
Yes.
is a confirmed tenant in the other building that's going up now.
Yep.
They're taking the majority of that building. They're, I think, 17,000 square foot building that they're
something
putting
like
up, and
that.
they're taking 14.
Something like that.
So yes, that's great. So we have that. He's continuing to work with other companies to see what we can bring in. Hoping to get some eateries in there. But again, due to COVID, that seems to be another issue. But he's working hard to get some more tenants in there. But doing a great job, working in conjunction with the town.
Good developer, nice guy.
Developer, yes, they're doing great. Greylock Properties is doing a wonderful job, as you can tell. I mean,
Yellow, yeah, absolutely.
so I think once that property's fully developed, it'll be a great place.
Absolutely. It's probably going to take a couple of years to get everything.
Yeah,
done.
by the time it's all done, I mean, phase 1 has been the Big Y, the first pads that are out front, and then the hotel is still on the second phase, so still working for that. There was one in place prior to COVID. Once COVID hit, that kind of took a turn, so I guess he's looking forward to seeing what else he can get on that end as well.
Speaking of COVID, is the town council, are you guys meeting in person, or are you guys doing the
We are
virtual
meeting
thing?
in person.
Excellent.
Yes, luckily.
Excellent.
So we meet in the green room where there's enough space for us to be socially distant.
Yeah.
And then if anybody comes to the meetings, it's good there too. So, we're doing our annual town meeting, which will be January 31st. That's going to be virtual.
Okay.
Because probably there will be more people because all department heads are part of that meeting. So that one will go virtual,
Oh, yeah.
but in person for meetings, because it was hard, and it still is hard.
Yeah.
A Zoom meeting to get work done and the communication of it all. So that's it's a real difficult way to go about it. So I think everybody's happy that we are back in person, and again, like I said, it's working well. I think this new form of government is great for our town. I think it'll benefit our town long term. I think people need to understand that what the town manager does is in the best interest of the town as well. Mm-hmm. Coming into budget season, this ARPA funding. I mean, those are things that a full-time town manager makes things a lot easier.
Right.
Because been involved, knows what he's doing, budget related. The ARPA funding is completely new to everybody, but thankfully he's here and he's helping us work through it.
What else? What else we got?
What else we got? We got hopefully the final opening of the train station. Everybody knows, obviously, that's going through. So we have that, again, first quarter of 2022 is the target date for that. We still have our STEEP grant that we received from the state to do the facade improvements on downtown, what we consider downtown. So that's still in process and working through getting some of the property owners to submit some applications for that funding. So that's for facade improvements to the fronts of the building, trying to get more conformity down in that area where Grand Pete's and Shore Appliance and those stores are. So hopefully that will come through and people will continue to work to get that done. So that's on the board. A lot of new development going in town. We've got apartment buildings towards the west end. 57, 59 West Main is a new building that's up with apartments. A little bit down further is the Milano building, so that's up and ready to go too. That's
a beautiful building.
It is. He did a great job in memory of John Milano.
Yes.
But again, that's you see that as you're driving around town. It's just you can see the development that's going on. So
I
we're
actually
very
get
happy.
my hair cut in that building.
There you go. See, now you know.
I was there a couple of weeks ago. The building was absolutely.
It's beautiful, and there's there's other structures, apartments, condos that are going down further down across from Citizens Bank where the old corn crib was.
Yes.
So that's been approved. That would probably start sometime soon. You see the wood that's being dropped off over there, so hopefully that one will get going. So you can see a lot of that development, a lot of housing. So that's important, obviously, because it seems to be limited on the shoreline where people would like to move, but they can't because there's just nothing available.
Exactly.
The affordability of it and everything else. So those are some things that are going to be coming to town. And obviously, every time you see it, development breeds development. People see what's happening in town, then they're going to want to come. So we're doing a great job there.
And how's the town been doing with the COVID thing?
I think it's done great. I mean, it's so when we went through, obviously everybody got the test kits as well and dealt with that. So obviously that was a little bit more difficult, obviously, when we were told we were going to get them and then they were delayed and then we weren't going to get them. At the end of the day, we received them sporadically. Our emergency director did a wonderful job putting everything together for distribution kits to the town. So we had, I guess, 3 distributions. We had 2 over at the Joel School that we had, and then we did 1 at Morgan. Yep. So they went well, they went smooth, and it was wonderful. And and it's hard. People, the difficulty is that people, you kind of have to also explain to people why the kits were given out the way they were given out. Right. So we had to allocate kits differently than we initially wanted to. The town received almost over 2,700 requests, and our initial allotment was about 1,700. So. Oh wow. Well in excess of what we were going to get. And so it's hard because we knew more people wanted them than we were going to be given. And then you had to, once we weren't going to be given the full allotment, then we had to determine how they went out. Yeah. And so that doesn't always sit well with everybody, but I think we did the best we could. So, symptomatic people who were in close contact were the people that received them first. And we know it's a moving target, so it's difficult. Trying to make sure everything runs smoothly is difficult, and then not knowing, when these tests were coming. Right. But I can tell you when we did get them, the next day we had the handout.
Absolutely. So, would you want to stick around for another segment?
Sure would.
All right, we'll be right back.
I've spent my whole life as a physician. I've seen how vaccines have saved people's lives, saved children's lives, saved the lives of the elderly. We now have that opportunity with COVID. We have a vaccine that's safe. We know this vaccine also, through the most rigorous scientific studies and trials, is effective. We have the opportunity to make a difference. We can only make that difference if everyone gets vaccinated.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Chris Aniskovich, who is the chairman of the town council for the town of Clinton. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you. It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. You need a shorter title, dude.
Yeah, no, or my name.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's talk about budgets.
Whew, do we have to?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, budget season. So it's in full swing. So town manager is working with department heads now, going through kind of preliminary stages on budgets,
Okay.
what things will look like. Board of Education is doing the same on their end. We will begin our budget meetings first week of February.
Right.
So February will be our budget workshops. And then so how it's work. So we no longer have a Board of Finance.
Right.
So due to the change of form of government, town manager, and we have the town council. Town council basically works as the Board of Finance. So we work in conjunction with the town manager in order to do, the final determinations.
So you guys set the mill rate.
Ultimately, the town council sets the mill rate. We get direction from the town manager.
Right.
So the town manager will, we work with him through that process.
Okay.
So, when things come in and we go through the initial workshops and we know where everybody's budgets land, then the council has the ability to say what we would like to see as an increase in town.
Okay.
I can't speak for the council, obviously. I can tell you we'll probably work hard, to do the best we can like we have the past 2 years. Our mill rate dropped last year. First year the town manager was here, we were flat.
All right.
So, the improvement in the mill rate obviously was due to some of the development. The other issue that, that swayed that a little bit was that it was reval.
Right.
So last year was reval, so some people didn't see really as much of a decrease as possible due to the mill rate decreasing because of the revaluations. Okay. So the good news, bad news,
Yep.
Property values went up, the mill rate went down, kind of offset it a little.
All right.
So, we'll see what happens again this year. I mean, it works well. This process, I can tell you, is wonderful. Having the town manager, doing the legwork and meeting with the department heads and talking to them and working through their budgets prior to, because he'll obviously have an understanding of where the council would like to be,
Right.
because of the direction that we give to him, and then he meets with the department heads. So the process works well, so that ultimately when he comes to us, with kind of where each department is, we kind of know, So, the conversations are, they'll get heated at sometimes, but I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, I think we're all fighting for the same thing.
Yeah.
I think the first two budgets that we've had under the new form of government have worked well. I think the council members have worked well together. We both have been, pushing. We all have been pushing for the same thing, regardless of party affiliation, which,
Right.
at the end of the day means nothing
Right.
as it relates to, our town and what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure we're putting forth a budget that can help everybody in town. I mean, people are still struggling. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we still see it. Thankfully for us, we have some great, organizations in town, nonprofits that help. But when you still see the line of cars coming to get food every Wednesday, it's
Absolutely.
it touches your heart, and it's gotta, you got to take that into consideration when we're going forward. So we're in a good place. I think the development's going to help. I think going forward, we'll see those bottom line tax revenues coming to the town that will benefit us. So that's something that as we go forward, things will continue to look better.
Wow.
The workshops, we bring in each department. That's the other thing.
Right.
So the Board of Ed will come. They'll present their budget to us.
Right.
Budget side on the Board of Education, obviously we really don't have much say. Statutorily, they deal with their budgets and they come forth with it. The town council certainly can say we would like to see, what number we would like to see for an increase, and have them work towards that. Again, first two budgets with them I think have worked wonderful. Town manager, again, playing a big part of that. So, those things are good, that we have those conversations prior to it coming to us, and then we go through, and the workshops are beneficial to all the council members, so that we know what kind of questions we want to ask, where we want to go, and town manager is explaining to us where the mill rate will land, what we see as that impactful number to the people when they get that tax bill.
Absolutely. All right, shameless plug.
Oh, no.
No, me
What?
shameless plug.
Oh,
not
you again? Okay.
Me shameless plug.
What?
We're talking about town council and town meetings.
Yes.
But I understand you can actually, if you don't want to show up at the town meeting,
Yes.
you can watch the town meeting on
You
television.
can.
Tell me about it.
Valley Shore, you guys do a wonderful job. Actually, it's worked well, actually. I mean, and I think it's good, and I think the more we get out to everybody that these meetings are available. One of the things with our ARPA funding has been that we're going to use a little bit and going to use some of that and allocate some of that money to communications, which meaning that we can maybe do more so that we can get more videos and more, more of the boards and commissions in town, which is important as well.
Right.
I mean, we're out there and we're being videoed, but I think some of the things where things really happen, especially planning and zoning, inland wetland, those kind of, those meetings where people can see actually what is discussed and they can find out for themselves exactly what's going on without having to say, hey, guess what? It's not Starbucks, it's McDonald's.
Right.
When we know it's not McDonald's, but unfortunately social media is good and bad.
Of course.
And of course, somebody puts something out there that they heard, then things turn a little sideways. So we try to get as much information out that we can so that people understand exactly what's going out, so that they know what's going on. I think as a council we've done a great job. That was a big thing for me personally going there.
Absolutely.
That I wanted to make sure that people were made aware of what was going on in town and making sure that it's not overload, but it's enough to make sure that they understand what's happening in our town and that they have an outlet to go to if they want to get some answers.
Absolutely. Well, what else is going on in town?
Well, let's see in town. We have, and again, the council's meeting, I know there's always the talk of the Pearson, so that always becomes the big topic a lot because it's the building that we own. It's been sitting there for a couple of years now. I can tell everybody that, we are working on this project. The project is not just sitting there, and nothing is happening.
Right.
A lot of the stuff, unfortunately, that has to happen behind the scenes. The council has met multiple times, but we've met in executive session.
Right.
So we cannot talk about, what was discussed in those executive sessions.
Exactly.
I can tell you that the town manager has been in contact with the state because a lot of these things relates to an underlying deed restriction on the building. There's about 3 lots of land. There's a deed restriction for that building needs to be used for education or moral fortitude.
Okay.
What moral fortitude is, I guess, is open for discussion.
Okay.
But again, also the Morgan Land Trust donated that building to the town. So should, the ultimate outcome be that we're no longer going to keep the building, well then they have to be involved because there's going to probably be some monetary compensation that would go to them. So 2 months ago maybe, we set aside a $12,000 amount of money for a structural integrity study to be done on the building.
Okay.
Because again, there's a lot of what we should do with the building and not necessarily what's going to happen to the building, let's say. So you want to make sure that, there's talk of the library moving. Well, whether that would happen or not happen, I have had a conversation with the town manager and I was really supportive of the idea of making sure that we do something so that when people make a decision on what we want to do with this building, that they've had every piece of information they could get.
Right.
Meaning if we kept the building, this is what it would cost the town.
Yeah.
If we sold the building, this is what we would make. So I think that we need to get that information to everybody in town because it will go to a public hearing. It will go to a town meeting. All those things will come into play for the final decision. Town council, ultimately has the final decision, but there's going to be input from the public. We want to make sure that we've done this, integrity study because if it can't, library-wise, weight of the books, the roof, air conditioning, all these things come into play, and people need to understand that. And it's the same as, community center, senior center, so all those things come into play, and I get it. I mean, I know people are interested in doing that, and the council will continue to work on seeing what we can do. The other thing is we had a fire department facility study, so we might be at the end of life for that particular building. Just because of the apparatus and the size, and the how big these units are. Can it still fit there? That's near a floodplain. Is it does it make sense to keep it there? Because during a flood, what's going to happen if they have to move out of the building where they're supposed to be? So, and it's happened. It has happened in the past where the fire departments had to relocate out of that building and go someplace else during a storm. So. That facility study is done. It was presented to the previous council. I've asked town manager to see if it could be presented to the new council so that the new members are up and running on what's going on. And essentially what it is whether or not the town can find a location to move it. So we're hoping something may come about, but that's, then those are long-term discussions that,
Right.
That has to come into play.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we have a Pearson building, we have the fire department. Does the fire department make more sense if we're able to relocate that to be our community center, senior center, whatever, we can make it? I don't know.
Right.
But those are, I think, discussions that, need to be had. And I know people, unfortunately, we're in the now, world. So we want it now. I don't want it down the road.
No.
But the tough part is that it has to be a plan. And there's got to be a plan that we can, put into place. And the plan would be then, what the, and again, ultimately relates to the budget. How much is it going to cost to do all this stuff?
Right.
Because yes, we may want something to happen, but if it's going to have a negative impact on the budget, where now we're telling people your taxes are going up another 3%.
Right.
How is that going to pass?
Yeah.
How are people going to feel about that, especially in these times? So it's a lot. It's a lot of discussions. It's, timing. It's going to take a lot of time to get it done. And I understand and I feel for people because they're always asking, what's going to happen with Pearson? And right now it's just there was a charrette that happened a couple of years ago. And unfortunately, I think that was just put out there too soon because people then had the idea that they thought this was ready to go.
Exactly.
Not ready to go.
No. Chris Aniskovich, we're out of time.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter, for having me.
Thanks, Chris. On behalf of Chris Aniskovich, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night. And we'll see you next time.